Yo, welcome in, fellas. So today I'm bringing you my 125 Poison Nova Necromancer. I just had a hankering to use this build lately, so I decided to slap it together, build it up, and get out there and hopefully farm in some godly gear. Now, I will put a link in the description to a 75 FCR version. That is the lower breakpoint where, and also in that video, I have some more budget options to use. Today, I'm pretty much just going over the build that I have, why I'm using what I am using, and how good this character really is. If you enjoy the video, if it helps you out, hit the like button and subscribe up for future Diablo 2 Resurrected content. All right, we're going to start off with the stat points, and I'm not breaking any new ground here. I'm not coming up with some new formula. We got just enough strength to wear your gear, and the rest into vitality. That way you get more survivability, right? You see the resistances just behind my head, no big deal, are not particularly great. The places I generally use this right now are the easy places like the pits. So I don't really worry about it too much. You can make this up on some gear if you wanted to swap some stuff around, if you had a little bit better gear, or on your charms in your inventory. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the skill tree. For the curses, we're going to want to get down to lower resistance. These are all 1 points right here. Amp damage, weaken, Iron Maiden, terror, life tap, and decrepify. But we just want to get down to lower resistance right here. And I only use 1 point into it because as you put more points into it now, you only get up maybe a couple of percent with 10 or 15 more points. It really is not worth it in my opinion. You do get more radius, which some people will like, but in my opinion, I just prefer not to do that. Now we go over to the Poison Bone. Obviously, a lot of the points are coming over here because we are using Poison Nova. Now it has two synergies, Poison Explosion and Poison Dagger. You want to max out all three of these to get the most damage out of Poison Nova that you can. Now Bone Armor over here, obviously a 1 point wonder, and we want to get down to Corpse Explosion as well. I have 7 base points in that currently. All my remaining points that I get, I'm going to put into Corpse Explosion as I get them. That way it does boost up the radius on the Corpse Explosion, meaning you can hit monsters that are a little bit further away. It doesn't actually increase the literal damage, but it'll increase your overall damage output by just hitting more monsters at a larger distance. Now over on the summoning tree, there's a little bit of tweaks here you could do depending on what you want to rock. Now, as of right now, we're going to use an Iron Golem. So we come straight down the middle to Iron Golem, but just 1 point into that. Putting more points into Iron Golem doesn't help them stay alive, and we don't really care about the damage. We just want the walking around meditation aura from the inside. So we actually going to max out Golem Mastery. That way you get a ton more life, and we do want to get 1 point down to Summon Resistance. Now optional is these 3 points down the side. It's not going to be a huge matter either way, it's just 3 skill points. But if you're going to be running the Chaos Sanctuary or Cows, you might want to bring up some revives to help out your survivability for you, your mercenary, and your golem. They're essentially just like distractions. Also, your character doesn't do a ton of damage against, let's say you're running the Chaos Sanctuary and you got to take out Diablo at the end. Poison doesn't exactly melt him incredibly quickly. You can bring up a bunch of revives and it'll probably like double the speed at which you kill Diablo at the end of that particular run. But these 3 are optional. So there's the skill tree knocked out, and we can go ahead and take a look at the gear. Now, like I said at the beginning, there is a link at the top of the description to a lower FCR breakpoint version of this build that also has a ton of budget options that you can go ahead and use for this particular character. I'm just going to go over this build, and these are like end game options. So go to that link if you want more of a budget version of this particular build and more examples of options to put into these different slots. So up here we have a Death's Web. I do need to find myself a perfect poison facet, excuse me. I'm being lazy and haven't got one put in there yet, but in the future I will, and it'll help out the damage even more. Up on the top, we need an FCR circlet in order to get to 125 for this build. I could also put a facet in this as well, but once again, lazy Phil being lazy. So that could be an extra +10, -10 poison damage resistance between those two. Now, armor, obviously Enigma. If you want to pause it and look, you can. Pretty much everybody knows what's on that. Strengths gloves, a couple of FCR rings, the best that you have, and Arachnid's Mesh kind of rounds out some more of the FCR there. Trangs is going to go on almost any caster, obviously. And obviously the Arachnid's Mesh, a skill, cast rate, stuff like that. These are just 2 rare rings, the best you got. You can make up some resistances here if you had different types of rare rings for that. Up on the amulet, I have a 210. A 220 means you could pull off and put an SOJ down here or something. I don't really have a lot of great Necromancer amulets, unfortunately, so I decided to go with this option. So, and 2 to all skills for the Necromancer would probably be better, but this is just kind of what I have, so it's what I got to use. Over on the boots, we have War Travelers. I went with the Magic Find. You could go with Silk Weaves to get your mana after kill or something like that. Alder's boots to get the res. A bunch of other options here. So kind of dealer's choice there. Rare boots, tri-res boots, something like that. Tons of other options to go with the boots. 35 FCR Spirit is an absolute must to get to this breakpoint essentially. So you'll want to get one of those. And over on Swap, the most obvious in the entire book, we have a Call to Arms and we have another Spirit. Obviously get the more life and energy. Down in the inventory, Poison and Bone Skillers, as many as you can get. I got a Beads, Torch, and Annie. And if you would like to, where I'm running, I don't need it at all, so I don't worry about it, but you could go with a Poison Sunder Charm if you would like. Totally optional. Like I said, I am not using one, and I generally do not, to be perfectly honest. So now we've got 7 Magic Find Small Charms around here to get the Magic Find a little bit higher as well. You can go ahead and put some all res down here, life, stuff to help out your survivability if you want. I personally don't worry about survivability all that much. I kind of do perfectly fine. If we go ahead and look at the Mercenary now, we've got the Infinity right behind me. Everyone knows what Infinity's for. It's that Conviction Aura. Now, the Conviction Aura does not help out poison, I know that. But half of Corpse Explosion is fire. So the Conviction Aura will help out the damage of half of the Corpse Explosion. And on top of that, Infinity is just a great option with the Crushing Blow for an Act 2 Mercenary. So went ahead and threw that on over there. And we got Andarl's Visage and Fortitude, absolutely standard options over here for an Act 2 Mercenary, but what is not standard necessarily, almost all the time on a Necromancer, you go with the Might version. Do not want the Cold Aura to shatter corpses when they die, so you want to go ahead and throw on the Might version of this particular build. Now, we just go quickly, take a look. We do get just over 300 Magic Find. We do go ahead and get the 125 breakpoint here on the faster cast rate. So we're sitting very pretty. And now let's go ahead and take a look at what exactly this build can do, slapping monsters down in Diablo 2. Now, the first place that I love using this build is in the pits. Let's just go ahead and melt this pack real quick out here. And this is player 7 difficulty too, right? So it really does work pretty dang good, as you can see. Nothing great from this pack, actually. The first time I tried recording this, I actually pulled a Lemrune from that pack. Nothing insane, but here we are, champion pack. These guys don't take the most damage from poison, but you see, even with that, they get ripped out really darn quick. There's usually a champion pack over here. There they are. And they melt down, corpse explode a few, and move on. Down in the pits here is probably the best place to use this particular character, but there are many other places that you can actually use this character. We'll go ahead and just take out a few more packs along the way here, just to give you a full example of what it can actually rock down here in the pits. You see the poison actually melts away a lot of their health, and then when you do hit the corpse explosion, it's almost as if the poison somewhat acts as static does on the sorceress, just lowering their health, so when the corpse explosion does hit them, it just absolutely nukes them. So I'll go ahead and just clear up this pit real quick, and I'll move on to the next area to go ahead and show you this absolutely melting monsters. So another classic spot to test things out, Eldritch Shank. So right here we'll hit them with the poison, whoomp whoomp whoomp. One of them goes down, start corpse exploding, and they all just explode. They're just gone instantly. This build really does anything that doesn't have super high poison res and doesn't have super high health, just gets mega eliminated. All right, here we go. Hit them all with the lower res. Hit a corpse explosion once one drops, and you just kind of nuke the entire group, right, fellas? And another place that I definitely use is the Chaos Sanctuary, but I generally don't run the Chaos Sanctuary on players 7 or 8 difficulty. Usually, I only rock players 3 in the Chaos Sanctuary. It feels better. The clear speed just feels so much better. So I generally, you definitely can rock it on player 7 difficulty, but I generally do not. So same thing here, you just lower res, corpse explode, move on. Let's find some good pack here. There we go. Hit him with the poison, lower res, corpse explode, move on. And once again, keeping it going. Now you can go ahead and, like I said here, I'm bringing up some revives. These can help out the survivability of you and your mercenary. See, he's getting hit just ever so slightly there. I was not paying attention, but the revives can really distract all of the monsters and take some of the beating off your mercenary. Now, if you do have the revives, as I do right now, just remember they will kind of spread out the monsters so they won't necessarily clump up quite as well. So maybe the corpse explosion won't hit them as good. But like I said, they do help out the survivability on this build if you ever have any issue. And another thing with the revives, if you're ever going to actually try to take out Diablo, it's incredibly slow. I bring up as much of the infector group as I can just before I go take out Diablo. They will actually increase the amount of damage that you're outputting quite a bit. And you do sort of kind of want to actually spam the poison, because your mercenary, I believe, puts a little poison on them, and it will kind of override your poison. So you kind of want to hit Diablo with some poison here and there while you're having the kill, and you don't want your mercenary or your iron golem to sit in that fire because it will just melt you. So telly stomp them with your revives and then poison them up. Yes, not the fastest Diablo kill, but when you are killing them, this is the way I kind of recommend and show you how to go ahead and do that. So that is a 125 Poison Nova Necromancer. If you liked the video, if it helped you out, hit the like button and subscribe up. And remember, link in the description to that lower FCR version of this that has a lot of budget options along with it as well. Peace out, fellas, and keep slaying.